Welcome to the Green Nurse podcast, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. We are here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. You deserve to feel good. We all deserve to feel good. And here is a little video about what we do in the space as plant medicine nurses. And then we're going to get started on our very exciting interview today.
The paradigm of healthcare.
The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I'm the founder of Holistic Caring. We're based here in California, and we do educational programs and case management for patients on how to use cannabis therapeutically as a medicine.
We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
As the founder of Holistic Caring, I basically oversee the whole ship, and what we're doing is progressive education.
Cannabis actually supports all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not do something. Because the plant was prohibited, it prevented health professionals, doctors and nurses from learning about cannabis as medicine.
I want to change the paradigm of healthcare and us paving the way into a new vanguard of medicine.
It's about education, it's about empowerment, it's about teaching people how to feel good, bridging the gap from what they're not getting from traditional medicine, utilizing different plant medicines, adaptogens, tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs of information to support and nourish the most important system in our body.
And it's a lot of soul work, a lot of love, a lot of discipline, and meditation. I'm using my life work as a testimony to others to learn how they can be their own hero and then go help heal the world.
And we are, as nurses, the game changers.
There you go. Growing your health, growing in cannabis. Hey, everybody. My name is Sherri Mack, and I'm the Chief Nursing Officer and co-founder of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse and Vice President of Bloom Hemp CBD. And I am a cannabis nurse, patient, advocate, activist, and a very passionate podcaster here to change the paradigm of health. And I'm really excited to announce that this is my 7th year podcasting The Green Nurse Living Your Best Life. I started podcasting in 2018 when the National Council State Boards of Nursing came out with their guidelines that all nurses must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine. I started podcasting to share compelling stories of healing and to decrease stigma, since I too use cannabis and other plant medicines as medicine. And before we get started on our very exciting show today, we do have a message from our sponsors at Bloom Hemp. I'm going to pull up my handy dandy slide and let you know all about Bloom Hemp. Bloom Hemp is a woman and nurse-owned national CBD hemp supplier, leading with quality, safety, value, and patient-centered care. Bloom Hemp products are USDA organic, CBD grown in the mountains of Colorado, and tested for purity, potency, cannabinoid, and terpene profiles. Bloom Hemp is proud to offer a free nurse line to answer questions and explain how and why CBD works in the body. You can call the nurse line at 970-404-HOPE and use the coupon Green Nurse for 10% off and free shipping. Thank you, Bloom Hemp, for sponsoring this show today. Very, very exciting. And I'm not sure if you all know, but if you haven't known, I'm going to tell you, cannabis nursing has been recognized as a specialty. And nurses are truly making an impact on advocating for the safe therapeutic use of cannabis by teaching on the endocannabinoid system and how to optimize cannabis as medicine for health, healing, and wellness purposes. And the Green Nurse podcast was created as a media outlet to share those impactful stories of recovery with the goal of demystifying, getting rid of the social stigma surrounding the medical use of cannabis. In today's show, we're going to be highlighting an amazing plant medicine nurse entrepreneur and all that she's doing to bring cannabis and psychedelic nursing to her platform. I'd like to introduce Emily Knife. She is the modern nurse, a veteran, an accomplished content creator, curriculum developer, and course writer for the School of Modern Nursing. With over 13 years of experience in nursing education, she had authored 4 books. She hosts the Modern Nurse podcast, and she created the Somatic Nurse Coach certification. She also pioneered Modern Nurse Fest, the first online nursing festival bringing together healthcare professionals to explore modern career paths in nursing. Emily is known for developing innovative and evidence-based curriculum that incorporates gamification, interactive learning, and a reduction in the traditional PowerPoint presentations that you see us present all the time. As a modern nurse and veteran, she brings a unique perspective to her work, relying on data analytics and student feedback to ensure her courses are impactful and relevant. And throughout her writing, podcast, and social media presence, Emily continues to champion progressive educational approaches that empower healthcare professionals in an ever-evolving field. Welcome, Emily.
Hey, thank you. Wow, hearing all that, it's like, wow. Wow.
Right? I mean, you have someone else read your bio and you're like, wow, I'm doing a lot.
Wow.
I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back.
Exactly. Yeah, I need to.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the founder of the School of Modern Nursing, I know we have a lot of interview questions, but you didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm gonna, found the School of Modern Nursing. There's usually a story and steps that initiated you to take that leap of faith to doing all that you're doing today on your platform. And I know our viewers want to get to know you and we want to share everything that you're doing. So tell us about your background and what brought you to the School of Modern Nursing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. And so it started a long time ago when I was a child. I had been abandoned by my mom. She lived in England. My dad lived in the United States. So I had to come live with my dad. So first off, that was the mental health starting there, right? So abandonment issues, went into teenage years, got in some trouble, messed around with some psychedelics, started to understand like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Ended up graduating high school, went to college, was not a good fit. I was like, I don't even want to do this. And so I went to the Air Force and I was a medic in the Air Force for 4 years and did not practice any psychedelic medicine, obviously in there, but was involved highly in the traditional forms of medicine, especially in regards to medication. And what we give our troops or even our veterans, we dose them with a lot of medication in service and out of service. And so that was kind of the first red flag for me because I grew up, my stepmom was a midwife and she had her own practice. And so I grew up in a very holistic like household where we didn't reach for the Tylenol right away. We tried to figure out something else to do before that. So coming from that background of holism, these red flags, as you become an adult and you start seeing how the world works, things started coming up for me. So there was a lot of medication and I didn't understand why. I was like, there has to be other ways. Mm-hmm. And so started to dive into my own journey. And I also started to get on medication for anxiety and depression during my time in the Air Force as well. So I was dealing with the repercussions of the side effects of that. And eventually got out of the Air Force and was on like 8 different psychiatric medications because I just could not adapt to life outside of the Air Force.
That's something that people don't really talk about either.
Absolutely.
So you go into the service, you develop a new way of life based on service life and their rules and regulations. You go and serve your country, and then you come back and have to integrate into the world where you have changed, but the world hasn't.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very much like a culture shock. So that kind of put me more into a mental health crisis or a state where I really needed help. And so I reached out to the VA, and unfortunately they were helpful, but not so helpful, and just wanted to load me on with more medications. I was like at 13 prescriptions at one point. And I had to drop out of school. I enrolled in Ohio State University, was doing really well. And then I just became this zombie because of all the medications, and started getting into a scene where people were smoking cannabis. And one of the gentlemen was like, you should try this, like, just see how it does, how it works for you. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does, but go ahead and try it and see, how it works. And I was like, wow, everything just like melted away, and my emotional highs and lows became very even keeled. And I just noticed I wasn't getting overly emotional like I was before. I was actually enjoying life more and being more in the present moment. And so those things started to help me wean off by myself. And I don't suggest this to anybody. Please use a doctor to wean off of medications. But I use cannabis to wean off of those medications along with other psychedelics. And so currently don't take any medications. But I also, that being said, the diagnoses that I have that I don't like to identify with because I want to be in a healing like state. Mm-hmm. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a hyperconnectivity disorder. So my arms are hyperflexible. I have constant pain, chronic pain running through my body, and cannabis has helped tremendously with that pain and coping with that pain more than any opioid ever has. And then I also have borderline personality disorder, which I've recovered from. And that being said, I used cannabis to help with those emotional highs and lows that come with having the symptomology of BPD. So I had one of the most severe chronic pain conditions physically, and then I also have one of the most painful emotional disorders mentally. So I was like, whoo, dealing with all this and really trying to find a slither of light. Ended up wanting to end my life several times and dealing with suicide thoughts and things like that. And, microdosing brought me out of that, microdosing psilocybin. So I've used plant medicine for a while now, and it has helped me tremendously with things that doctors just want to give medications for. And so, being a veteran and helping veterans, especially with the microdosing piece, I think it's just so important to understand that everybody's journey doesn't look the same. And especially as we enter the medicine arena, either traditional or plant medicine, again, every dosage is going to be different. And that's not the same so much for traditional medicine. If you fit a certain category, a certain checklist, then you get 20 milligrams of this medication, right? But plant medicine, what's so beautiful about that and what I love about that is I can integrate whole wellness into it. And so meditation is a big part of what I do on a daily basis, because if I don't, I might give somebody the finger while I'm driving, if I get cut off, I'm in Atlanta traffic, I'm like, meh. But, plant medicine has helped me take a step back and just be like, that has nothing to do with you. That person's probably going through something, and it comes with compassion and empathy. So I feel like I'm a better parent, a better nurse, a better human overall.
Would you say that the plant medicines have expanded your consciousness for healing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Sherri, I don't think I would have even been on this podcast or started the School of Nursing if I didn't get into microdosing psilocybin, because it really drops a lot of that imposter syndrome, the negative bias, the negative self-thoughts that are on repeat a lot of times in all of our heads. And so it quiets that down quite a bit where you can actually focus and function. And I think that's what traditional medication doesn't do. We're not able to focus and function on those type of medications.
Yeah.
So,
now we're not anti-pharma, but I agree with you. I was on 18 pharmaceuticals at one point in time in my life.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years to get off of them. I had some help from my doctors, but I was figuring out all the plants and the supplements and the entheogens to help me along my way. But I don't think what people realize about medications is that if you're on 5 or more medications, there's a 50% chance that they're interacting. If you're on 10 or more medications, 100% chance that they're interacting and not in your best and highest interest. And then when we fold in the endocannabinoid system, right? One of the most important things to nourish the endocannabinoid system is nutrients. And certain pharmaceuticals, we call them drug muggers, can actually deplete the body of these essential nutrients. Right?
Yeah.
So we get on that cycle. So, you know, it's really hard, really hard for people to understand that and know that. But this is the truth, and how plants, psychedelics, microdosing, using cannabinoids in general can prevent all of that from even happening, because it's working with your body at a cellular level to correct it.
Yes.
Source healing, root cause healing, as opposed to, you know, band-aiding it or blanketing it, or, you know, just take another pill and this pill doesn't work, then take this one, let's combine. And then before you know it, you're unraveling, right? The people don't even realize it until, you know, they're like, wow, what happened? And that was in my case. Wow, how did I end up over the course of, you know, 2 years of being sick on 18 medications, right?
Yeah.
Why wasn't anyone looking at that? Why didn't anyone say anything? Wow, like, right?
Yeah.
Right. And why did I have to figure this out on my own? And so that's why this is so important, what you're doing, you know, bringing this to the forefront, sharing your story, and creating the modern school of nursing for nurses to be able to learn from you and what you've done and what you've created. So I want to
absolutely,
give you a big hand. Thank you. You know? Yeah,
absolutely.
So the School of Modern Nursing, what inspired you to contribute to the development of the School of Modern Nursing, and how is it different from traditional nursing education and programs?
Yeah. So the School of Modern Nursing came to me in a meditation. It would just like came to me, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. We'll see what this is about. And for a very long time, I've been, as all nurses, we're students for a really long time, actually for our whole lifetime. But we're also educators, and some of us in the academic space. And so I've taught at community colleges, big time universities, and somewhere in between. And what I've noticed with traditional nursing education is we teach to a test. We're training you to take a test. We're training you to take the NCLEX, and which is all fine and dandy, but we're missing a huge piece, and that's real world, actual situations, and an understanding of the nursing the nurse, right? So, you know, in nursing school, we're not really taught how to take care of ourselves, yet alone how the human body is actually so magnificent that it actually heals, right? So there's those two things. We're not really taught about the human body, in a sense. It's kind of weird to say that. And then secondly, it's different because it focuses on nursing the nurse and having the nurse understand how to use various tools and modalities to help them decrease the need to remove themselves from the field altogether, or even just get so burned out that they're now drinking a lot and they've lost their license, right? So it can go a multiple bunch of different ways. But I started a school of nursing because I was tired of traditional nursing schools and not providing actual relative information to treat at the root cause level. So I was fed up. I was fed up with how our nursing is and teaching in it. You know, it actually like hurt my soul. I used to teach at a high institution for mental health, and what they were teaching for mental health was totally incorrect, and didn't bring in the whole picture. It was just very medication focused. This is what we do for depression. We give Lexapro, Wellbutrin, and anxiety. We give Xanax and whatever, right? Like it's very clinical, and there's not a lot of gray area. So it's like nurses, what you do to treat mental health is we give a lot of medication and you do talk therapy. And those were the only two things that were being taught in nursing school. And I know as a psych nurse, like that's not real world situation whatsoever. And so it just started to hurt my soul because I like knew that was not the whole truth. And I felt like traditional nursing schools, not all of them, but some of them, it's a disservice to our nurses. They're not prepared to go out into nurse. You know, I mean,
I've been a nurse for a long time. I've been a nurse for 36 years. And I remember getting out of nursing school way back in 1988, showing up being like, they never taught this in school.
Yes.
What the hell did I learn? Like, it was really insane. Like what I was actually doing is not what I learned in nursing school.
Yeah.
So it was really a culture shock for me as well.
Yeah.
And then you think about too, in the conventional system, what are we're teaching? We're teaching body parts, symptom management, disease management with pills and procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely do we ever get to mental, emotional health unless someone's having a crisis, and never do we get to spirituality until someone's dying.
Yes.
Well, the School of Modern Nursing does it a little bit different. Sounds like you start off with spiritual health, mental, emotional health, and then physical health. It all filters down. It's all interrelated.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so important to say that. And every patient is a mental health patient first. It's not a physical, it's not a heart problem. It's a mental, I don't want to say mental health because really we should get rid of that. It's a nervous system deregulation problem, right?
Yeah.
If somebody has arthritis like that, it's inflammation, right? So all of our diagnoses and disorders really comes down to inflammation in the body. Like, why do we have all these specialties when it's really one thing, but we have all these names for it?
Right.
And what causes that is stress, right? So it's like,
Right.
that's the culprit right there. So we need to be, focusing on some different stuff.
We could even get it even simpler. You either have a supported, nourished endocannabinoid system or you don't.
Yes.
You have an endocannabinoid system deficiency, literally, right? Yes. And it's so important because everything that we tell our patients to do or not do either supports the endocannabinoid system or doesn't. And if you're giving them a modality that's not going to support the endocannabinoid system, then you need to provide something that's going to mitigate that so they further don't get an endocannabinoid deficiency. And so that's really, really important for people as well. Yeah. So I love it. So how do you ensure the courses that you create at the Modern School of Nursing stay current with rapidly changing healthcare landscape? I like this question.
Yeah, I love this question. I'm always really up to date and in the know. And I think, networking with a lot of great cannabis nurses on LinkedIn, I'm able to get the information they provide, the education, and really stay up to date. And LinkedIn has been huge, but also like the Huberman Lab and all these other great people that are doing things and bringing forth awesome research. So we really stay ahead that way by, just listening to the current situation. And I see a lot of forecasting too. So I put stuff out there out of the School of Nursing from forecasting. So if I see something right now that could be great in the future and I feel it intuitively, like this is probably going to be a great tool for nurses, then I'll put it out there. So, and what's interesting is I created Somatic Nurse Coach certification.
That was my next thing.
That was the next one, like 5 or 6 years ago. And what I noticed was Somatics, like all of a sudden just became like this buzzword. And I was like, holy crap, like I just created this 5 years ago, right? So I do a lot of forecasting as well. And it usually aligns or even exceeds current events. So,
So what is somatic nursing? Can you explain what it is and how it's different from traditional nursing approaches?
Yeah, of course. That's a great question. It's a very common question because people see somatic nursing and they're like, what the heck? Why have I never even heard of this? Well, you're going to hear about it now. So somatic nursing is helping people regulate their nervous system. And why is that so important? Because like we just talked about, stress is usually the number one cause of all these disorders and diseases we have. So somatic nurses are trained in nervous system regulation tools and modalities. They're trained in somatic movement and breath work and meditation. They're also trained in a little bit in microdosing just to understand how that could be beneficial. And they could even, if they want, they can go into that space. So I leave that open for somatic nurses. And lastly, somatic nurses piggybacks on whatever you currently do. So if you're an ICU nurse, if you're a labor and delivery nurse, somatic nursing really piggybacks on whatever you're doing and actually gives you the tools, the modalities, and the training to not only help yourself, but to help your patients. Maybe they're dealing with pain. You can do some breath work to move through that pain, right? You don't always have to give a pain pill. So just learning these other tools and techniques can be really beneficial. And it's very different from holistic nursing, although it falls under the umbrella of holistic nursing because it's nervous system focused. So we're looking at root cause issues, which holistic nursing does, but we're solely focused on nervous system regulation, dialectical behavior therapy. They are trained also in that modality, which DBT, I love. Marsha Linehan created that because she was sick of how the treatment she was receiving in the mental health sector. So DBT is great for crisis intervention strategies, also people with suicidal symptomology. And so it really gives you a shoe up as a nurse to have the somatic nurse coach certification or become a somatic nurse just in general. It's so beneficial for your patients, and it's very life-changing as well.
So how does somatic nurse coach certification empower nurses to incorporate body-based awareness into their practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the 8 weeks, we go deep diving into the course, and you're actually deep diving into yourself. So you're actually going through the treatments, the modalities that you would actually be performing with patients. And so it really helps you become enlightened and aware of yourself and just aware of your intuition that we get so often shut down in nursing. And so it really combines the whole person and the root cause, looking at more of the root cause. So yeah, somatic nurse coaching, it's really the way of the future, somatic nursing in general. So maybe one day we'll see it as a specialty.
Absolutely. Well, it kind of reminds me too, if you think about, it's a little bit, I know it's different than cannabis nursing, but when we teach cannabis nursing is, teaching on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis as medicine. And when we teach on the endocannabinoid system signals both the fight or flight response and the relaxation response. The fight or flight response, we can't control. It just happens regardless. Whereas the relaxation response can be controlled by mind, body, spirit techniques, as well as cannabis, as well as microdosing psychedelics and other modalities and the conventional methods of care that exist today. So really interesting. And all of those somatic techniques that you mentioned all also support and nourish the endocannabinoid system. Right? It's actually toning it in a way to optimize endocannabinoid system signaling, right? So we're creating these endocannabinoids upon demand to nudge the receptors to keep our body in homeostasis or balance. Like you said, we're generally running hot all the time, right? We're hot, we're full of inflammation. And so, we want to be able to dial down on this and what are the modalities that we can use besides cannabis that are non-plant. And these are the techniques that the somatic nursing teaches. That's really amazing, really powerful work. Yeah. So let's talk about the Modern Nurse Fest.
Yes, Modern Nurse Fest. So Modern Nurse Fest, October 18th through 20th. It's online, so anybody in the world can join, even from outer space. But we hope that you attend because I know, and why I created Modern Nursing, Modern Nurse Fest, was there's not a lot of awareness of celebrating nurses, first of all. So this is going to be one big giant celebration of your nursing career, your nursing specialty, whatever you do as a nurse. We're going to celebrate you with some dancing. We're going to do a lot of movement. We're going to do some laughing therapy as well. So lots of cool things, modalities and techniques will be instilled into this Modern Nurse Fest. And another reason why I created it, because there's a lot of boring conferences for nurses and a lot of PowerPoints. And I was like, nope, we're going to revamp. We're going to do this differently. And so every guest speaker that we have on the Modern Nurse Fest has done amazing work, either in legal nursing, cannabis nursing, nursing with psychedelics, nurse coaching, nurse run businesses, CEOs, nurse content writers, nurses that work on websites and SEO. So, it's really about focusing on what other options are outside of the box. I've always been an advocate for understanding, as a nurse, there's so many opportunities. I feel like once you get your license, that's a opportunity, a license to freedom, because you really do get to craft and create what you want your nursing career to be. And that being said, I am so excited about Modern Nurse Fest. So like I said, it's a 3-day event. You can see all of these different workshops. We even have spiritual nursing, which is so important. So we have nurses in tech panel as well. We have a nursing school survival panel with some great nursing students that I taught with at one of the universities I worked with. So yeah, you get 20 CEs. If you come to all the workshops, there's gonna be VIP bonuses. So if you get the VIP ticket, you get 5 free digital freebies that will either help you start a business, learn about microdosing, learn about cannabis. So there's lots of goodness in here. And so I'm so excited. And it's for all nurses, including CNAs and STNAs as well.
Nice. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That is
Thank
absolutely amazing. The Modern Nurse Fest. And we're going to be presenting. Nurse Elisabeth and I are going to be presenting on Friday on cannabis, therapeutic use of cannabis. And then on Saturday, again, on the therapeutic use of psychedelics and using plant medicine helpers. So how you might intersect cannabinoids with psychedelics and when you might want to use them in combination, and some studies and research around that. That's going to be really exciting. Yes. So finally, how has your experience as a veteran shaped your nursing practice and influenced the way you approach education and patient care now?
So that's a great question. And I think, being a veteran, what's great about that is we're big about teamwork. We're big about collaborating. We're big about being high in the morale space. And I think that comes into play when I create my courses, my education, my communities, my interaction with patients really stems from what I learned in the Air Force and how to treat patients as well. And I think they do a great job of educating on how to talk to people. Like I learned that in the Air Force. I went up for several awards for like Airman of the Year, Airman of the Squadron, and I had to sit on panel interviews with like 7 people in front of me. And I was like 20 at the time, or 19 or 20. And that was very daunting. But I believe it set me up for what I do today. If I didn't have that awesome experience in the Air Force, I definitely wouldn't be standing here in front of you. I don't know what I would be doing, but yeah, it's the training in the armed forces. So if there's a nurse out there as well, if you just graduated and you're like, I don't know where I want to work, I don't know what I want to do, or maybe you want to become a nurse practitioner, but you don't want to pay the bill, the armed forces would love to probably have you, right? So I think, I was a medic, I wasn't a nurse, so I can't speak on nursing, but I worked with some amazing nurses, and I know the training is top notch in the armed forces, and will set you up for life, even if you just served 4 years. So yeah, I can't say anything bad about my experience. Yeah.
And then also, what key lessons have you learned over the 13 years in nursing curriculum development that you wish more nurses knew?
In nursing curriculum development, I would say there's probably 3 things. So the first one would be think outside the box. There's always this gray area. It's never black and white with curriculum. So, providing resources, adding gamification, like let's get rid of PowerPoint. So I think that's number 2. Like let's start creating interactive classrooms and interactive sessions that, students and people are able to talk freely about certain topics. I feel like it's so regulated, especially in nursing curriculum. It's very clinical and regulated, and there's not these like reaching areas that you can kind of go off in. So, and just modernize it. Like, let's put some real world situations in nursing curriculum. I think that's what I've learned from the Air Force with our simulations that we did in the Air Force and the exercises. It was real world. I mean, we had to put on a gas mask. We had to don our whole nuclear suit, right? Like we actually went through the paces. And so, instilling some of that modernism into curriculum, I think will go a really long way. And hiring, like, let's stop capping people with degrees. Like if you have a master's in nursing education, like you should be able to go to the top. of a school and be like, this is a curriculum that I think would be really helpful. And I think we have to stop capping people, because people's skill set, nurses' skill set, and what they're naturally gifted with always will outshine any degree.
I completely agree. I only have my bachelor's in science and nursing, and guess what? I'm writing cannabis and psychedelic nursing curriculum.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah.
And guess what? I've taken care of 6,000 patients to match. So, right. So it's like that real world experience does have something to play into it. You have to cover your nut. Like I say, cover your nut and cover the basics and cover what is required. Yeah. But bringing in all of that real world evidence that you're not going to find in a research study, real people of this is really happening to them, and then being able to provide the scenario of what happened, what they did, how you intervened, what the outcome was, what you could have done differently, et cetera. That's so rich for a nurse, as opposed to something that's cookie cutter. You need to bring in all of these different scenarios, and specifically when you're working with cannabis and psychedelics, because there are so many variables that can change at any given moment in time, and our requirements change. So, our endocannabinoid systems are constantly evolving and changing based on what we're doing or not doing. So over time, what you need to take is going to change. It just makes sense. And I was really grateful to Raphael Machulam before he died that I had a beautiful interaction with him over LinkedIn.
Oh gosh.
Texting, we were texting back and forth, and and he's the one that said, yes, absolutely. Our endocannabinoid systems are constantly changing, and what we need over time will change as well. So very good. Very good.
So important.
Yes. And then, so finally, let's go back one more time, back to the Modern Nurse Fest. Can you share a memorable moment or lesson learned from hosting Modern Nurse Fest that deeply resonated with you or the participants? I think this is a good question to end with.
Yeah. I think the takeaway would be to not listen to others that aren't doing what you're doing. And I think that's like a moment that will always resonate with me. And I remember talking about that, and the participants being like all these light bulbs all of a sudden just went off when I said that. And they were like, oh my God, yeah. And so I did that for so long, and I was being pushed into the career ladder of becoming a professor and all these wonderful things and grant writing and yay, and it just didn't sit well with me. But I was listening to other people, which they had my best interests kind of, I guess, in their hand, right? But they were also checking a box of what they needed for jobs, right? So it's like, we need a professor in mental health. Great, Emily's great. You go get your doctorate, then you can teach, right? But, it didn't sit well with me. So I think, the biggest thing that I've always talked about is really don't listen to anybody that's not doing what you're doing, and always just go for it. Like, if you fail, cool, do something else, but at least just try, because you'll never know if you don't try. So just try, I think. And that's the scariest part, doing podcasts, doing social media, being in front of the camera. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And there's been several times I canceled podcasts because I'm like, ooh, icky, cringe, I can't do that. But it was just because I just was in my head, I had these thoughts I wasn't good enough. I was,
Right.
And so I just was like, screw it. What's the worst that could happen?
The worst that could happen is no one watches. That's what I said. No one watches. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm speaking my truth and sharing my passion, right? And truly trying to help others, right? Living my best life and helping others do the same. That's pretty much my tagline for many, many years. So I just want to say thank you so much for being so brave and being open and vulnerable, sharing your story with us. Thank you for founding the School of Modern Nursing and Somatic Nurse Coaching. I think that is absolutely amazing. And one last time, I'm going to put up again here. There is in the show notes, there is a link to the Modern Nurse Fest 2024. You can sign up for it. It's going to be starting on October 18th, 19th, and 20th. Both Nurse Elisabeth and I will be presenting, as well as some other nurses that we are all fond of and love, and really, really excited for this. Thank you so much for coming on. And remember, everyone, what it's all about. It is truly all about living your best life and helping others do the same. And I'm going to end with my favorite little video, and we will see you all soon.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And you know, the more research I did, the more I discovered that cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name and she called me and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses Group, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.